Why was Rasputin feared by the Russian royal family? Who was Rasputin? Grigori Yefimovich Rasputin, 1869–1916, was a Russian mystic, self-proclaimed holy man, and controversial figure who became closely associated with the Russian royal family, particularly Tsarina Alexandra, during the final years of the Romanov dynasty. DNA Early life. Born in Pokrovskoye, a small village in Siberia. Lived a simple peasant life and had little formal education. Claimed to have had a religious awakening after a pilgrimage in his 20s. Gained a reputation as a healer and mystic, with followers believing he had divine powers. Rise to power. Around 1905, Rasputin was introduced to Tsar Nicholas II and Tsarina Alexandra. Their only son, Alexei, suffered from hemophilia, a life-threatening blood disorder. Rasputin appeared to miraculously ease Alexei's symptoms, leading the Tsarina to believe he was sent by God. Alexandra trusted Rasputin deeply and sought his advice on political matters, especially while the Tsar was away during World War I. Controversy and scandal. Many nobles and church officials saw Rasputin as a fraud and manipulator. He was known for a decadent lifestyle, drinking, womanizing, and acting with impunity. Critics accused him of using his influence to promote corrupt officials and damage the Romanov reputation. His growing power created deep resentment in the Russian aristocracy and public. Assassination and legacy. In 1916, a group of nobles, including Prince Felix Yusupov, plotted to kill Rasputin. His death became legendary. First poisoned, survived. Then shot multiple times, survived again. Finally drowned, this likely killed him. His death was seen as a symbol of the chaos within the empire. Despite his death, the monarchy collapsed just months later during the Russian Revolution of 1917. Why he's still remembered. Rasputin is remembered as a symbol of mysticism, corruption, and the downfall of Imperial Russia. His mysterious life and bizarre death continue to inspire books, films, and conspiracy theories. His rise to power in the Romanov court. Rasputin's rise to power in the Romanov court is one of the most intriguing chapters in Russian history, a story of mysticism, desperation, and political chaos. The Romanovs in crisis. By the early 1900s, Tsar Nicholas II and Tsarina Alexandra were struggling with multiple crises. Growing public unrest and political instability. Military defeats, e.g., Russo-Japanese War. Most critically, their only son Alexei suffered from hemophilia, a disease that caused uncontrollable bleeding. There was no cure, and Alexei's condition was kept secret from the public to avoid weakening the monarchy's image. A mysterious healer emerges. In 1905, Rasputin arrived in St. Petersburg after gaining a reputation as a holy man with healing powers. He was introduced to the royal family through church and aristocratic circles. Alexandra quickly became convinced that Rasputin had divine healing abilities, especially after he helped Alexei recover during a life-threatening episode in 1908. Alexandra's devotion. The Tsarina believed Rasputin was the only one who could keep her son alive. She referred to him as "our friend" or "Father Gregory" in letters. She defended him fiercely, even as reports of his immoral behavior surfaced. As Tsar Nicholas increasingly focused on World War I, Alexandra took on more political responsibility, and Rasputin became her trusted advisor. Influence behind the throne. Between 1915 to 1916, Rasputin was accused of influencing ministerial appointments, advising Alexandra on critical state matters, undermining military leadership by urging the Tsar to take command at the front, which left the government vulnerable at home. His sway over the royal couple led many nobles, clergy, and military leaders to view him as a dangerous puppet master. Public perception. To the Russian people, Rasputin's presence in the palace represented corruption of the monarchy. The Tsarina's poor judgment. A growing disconnect between the Romanovs and their people. Newspapers and rumors painted him as a sorcerer, a seducer, and a traitor, intensifying public anger. The final straw. As World War I raged and food shortages worsened, the Russian elite blamed Rasputin for the empire's collapse from within. His death was seen as necessary to save Russia from ruin. The myths, healing powers and hypnosis. A reputation for miracles. Grigori Rasputin gained legendary status among the Russian elite and peasantry alike for his supposed supernatural healing powers. Many believed he could stop bleeding with a prayer or a glance, soothe pain with touch or words, enter trances to see visions or predict the future. His most famous miracle involved Alexei Romanov, the heir to the Russian throne, who suffered from hemophilia, a condition where even a small injury could be life-threatening. Alexei and the Miracle Man. In 1908, young Alexei suffered an internal hemorrhage so severe that doctors feared he wouldn't survive. Desperate, Tsarina Alexandra called for Rasputin. After praying by the boy's side and reportedly telling Alexandra, "The little one will not die," Alexei began to recover. Whether by coincidence or something more mysterious, this moment cemented Rasputin's role as a trusted spiritual guide. Some historians now believe Rasputin may have helped by calming the Tsarina and Alexei, reducing stress-related symptoms, encouraging less use of aspirin, which worsens bleeding, unknowingly acting in Alexei's favor. Was it hypnosis? Some contemporaries, and later researchers, speculated that Rasputin used hypnosis or suggestion rather than divine power. Evidence suggests he could entrance people with prolonged eye contact. His voice and manner had a mesmerizing, almost trance-inducing quality. People described feeling drowsy, light, or even spiritually cleansed in his presence. Tsarina Alexandra often mentioned how peaceful Rasputin made her feel during crises, possibly reflecting a psychosomatic effect more than a supernatural one. Miracle or manipulation? Whether or not Rasputin had actual healing powers remains debated to this day. What's certain is, he believed in his own divine connection. The Romanovs trusted him completely. His reputation for miracles gave him incredible influence in the highest circles of Russian power. But to the nobility and the Russian Orthodox Church, his so-called miracles were either dangerous trickery or heretical lies, fueling the conspiracy that he was leading Russia into ruin. The fear of nobles and assassination attempts. Fear and hatred among the nobility. By 1915, Rasputin had become one of the most hated men in Russia's political elite. His closeness to Tsarina Alexandra, and the power it gave him, terrified the nobility and the Orthodox clergy. Key reasons included his ability to influence state appointments, including military and ministerial roles. The belief that he was manipulating Alexandra, and by extension, running the empire. His notorious immoral lifestyle, drinking, womanizing, and scandalous behavior in public. Growing rumors that he was a German agent, secretly working to weaken Russia during World War I, largely due to Alexandra's German heritage. The perception wasn't just that Rasputin was a charlatan, it was that he posed an existential threat to the Russian Empire. The road to assassination. Multiple assassination attempts were made on Rasputin's life even before the final one. In 1914, a peasant woman named Tsarina Guseva stabbed him in the abdomen in Siberia, yelling, "I've killed the Antichrist." Rasputin was severely wounded but miraculously survived. This event only deepened his legend. Many now believed he was impossible to kill. After that attack, Rasputin's paranoia increased, but so did his influence. The final plot, 1916. A secret conspiracy among aristocrats formed, led by Prince Felix Yusupov, a wealthy noble and husband of the Tsar's niece. Grand Duke Dmitry Pavlovich, cousin of Tsar Nicholas II. Vladimir Purishkevich, a right-wing politician. They believed Rasputin had to die to save Russia and the monarchy from collapse. The legendary assassination. On the night of December 29, 1916, Old Calendar, the conspirators lured Rasputin to Yusupov's palace with the promise of meeting his wife. What happened next became legend. He was poisoned with cyanide-laced cakes and wine. He showed no reaction. He was shot in the chest, still alive. Shot again while trying to escape, still breathing. Finally, they beat him, tied him up, and threw him into the frozen Neva River. An autopsy reportedly showed water in his lungs, suggesting he was still alive when he hit the water. Impact of his death. Far from saving the empire, Rasputin's assassination came too late. Just a few months later, in March 1917, the Romanov dynasty fell during the Russian Revolution. Alexandra was devastated, believing his death signaled the end of the monarchy, a prophecy Rasputin himself had supposedly made. His influence over Tsarina Alexandra. Here is a detailed and compelling section on Rasputin's influence over Tsarina Alexandra, which is central to understanding his power in the Romanov court and why he became so feared by the Russian elite. A desperate empress, Alexandra's emotional vulnerability. Tsarina Alexandra, the German-born wife of Tsar Nicholas II, was a deeply religious and emotionally fragile woman. Her greatest burden was that her only son, Alexei, suffered from hemophilia, a life-threatening blood disorder. This disease was a state secret. If the Russian people knew the heir was gravely ill, it could shake the monarchy's foundation. Alexandra lived in constant fear of losing him. When Rasputin appeared to miraculously ease Alexei's pain during a hemorrhage in 1908, Alexandra became convinced he had been sent by God to protect her son and, by extension, the Russian Empire. Spiritual advisor turned political gatekeeper. Alexandra saw Rasputin not only as a healer, but also as a holy man, a mystic who could guide her spiritually. Over time, their relationship deepened. She wrote letters to Rasputin almost daily, calling him "our friend" or "Father Gregory." She believed his prayers alone could preserve her son's life. He became her confessor, her confidant, and, in her eyes, a messenger of God. But Rasputin's role extended far beyond the spiritual. Rasputin's political influence. When Nicholas left Petrograd in 1915 to take direct command of the Russian army during World War I, Alexandra was left in charge of domestic affairs. That's when Rasputin's influence skyrocketed. He advised her on ministerial appointments, replacing competent officials with those loyal to him. He smeared political rivals and promoted allies with no qualifications. He allegedly vetoed military strategies and interfered in national decisions. Alexandra refused to believe any accusations against him, considering criticism of Rasputin to be an attack on her family and her faith. Rumors and scandal. This unprecedented influence caused outrage among the Russian nobility, military leaders, clergy, and the general public. Gossip spread like wildfire. Rumors claimed Rasputin and Alexandra were lovers. No evidence supports this. Rasputin controlled the empress like a puppet. The monarchy was being manipulated by a madman. The situation worsened when wartime defeats, food shortages, and government chaos left citizens blaming German Alexandra and her evil monk. A royal blind spot. Despite mounting pressure, Tsarina Alexandra remained blindly loyal to Rasputin. She dismissed critics as jealous, unspiritual, or traitors. Her fierce defense of him led to a collapse of confidence in the monarchy. A deep rift between the Romanovs and the nobility. Fuel for revolutionary fire. The mysterious circumstances of his death. A night of conspiracy. On the freezing night of December 29, 1916, old-style calendar, Grigori Rasputin was invited to the palace of Prince Felix Yusupov, one of the richest men in Russia. The plan was simple: kill Rasputin and save the monarchy. But what happened that night remains one of the most mystifying and controversial assassinations in modern history. The unkillable monk? Yusupov's account, published years later, reads more like a Gothic thriller than a political assassination. First, they offered Rasputin cakes and wine laced with cyanide. He ate and drank them with no visible effect. Panicking, Yusupov shot him in the chest. Rasputin collapsed. The conspirators believed he was dead. But moments later, Rasputin suddenly got up, attacked Yusupov, and ran out into the courtyard. He was then shot multiple times again, this time by Grand Duke Dmitry. Still alive, he was beaten, bound, and his body was thrown into the frozen Neva River. Legend has it that water was found in his lungs, implying that he drowned, meaning Rasputin may have still been breathing when thrown into the river. The autopsy mystery. An autopsy was performed, but the results have long been debated. Officially, he died from 3 gunshot wounds, including one to the forehead. No trace of cyanide was ever found, raising questions about Yusupov's account. Some historians believe Yusupov exaggerated the story to dramatize his role. Others suspect the British intelligence service, MI6, may have also been involved, fearing Rasputin's influence would lead Russia to withdraw from World War I. One British agent, Oswald Rayner, was reportedly present in Petrograd at the time and was close to Yusupov. Candle Aftermath and Prophecy. Rasputin had written a chilling letter to Tsar Nicholas II weeks before his death. In it, he predicted, "If I am killed by common men, you will rule in peace. But if I am killed by nobles, then, the Romanov family will be destroyed by the Russian people." Just a few months later, in March 1917, the Russian Revolution began. Tsar Nicholas II abdicated. The Romanov family was imprisoned, and by 1918, brutally executed. Legacy, madman or martyr? To some, Rasputin was a sinister fraud who manipulated a crumbling monarchy. To others, he was a misunderstood mystic, blamed for problems far beyond his control. Regardless, the story of Rasputin's life, and his death, remains one of the most haunting tales in Russian history. Rasputin's legacy in Russian history. Rasputin's legacy in Russian history. More than a century after his brutal death, Grigori Rasputin remains one of the most enigmatic, controversial, and misunderstood figures in Russian history. His legacy continues to stir debate among historians, theologians, conspiracy theorists, and even pop culture creators. The myth of the Mad Monk. Although he was never actually a monk, Rasputin has become known worldwide as the Mad Monk, a man shrouded in mystery, mysticism, and madness. This myth was fueled by rumors of hypnotic powers, alleged miraculous healings, an intense and possibly manipulative bond with Tsarina Alexandra, his rumored sexual escapades, debauchery, and wild lifestyle. Whether these stories are true or inflated, they created a legend that outlived the man himself. Scapegoat of a falling empire. To many Russians in the early 20th century, Rasputin became the symbol of everything wrong with the monarchy. Corruption at the highest levels. A foreign-born Tsarina under the influence of a mystical devil. A monarchy deaf to the cries of a suffering people. His presence amplified the narrative that the Romanovs had lost control, paving the way for the 1917 Russian Revolution. A prophecy fulfilled? Rasputin's eerie prediction, that if nobles killed him, the royal family would fall within 2 years, came chillingly true. In less than 3 months after his assassination, Tsar Nicholas II abdicated. Within 18 months, the entire Romanov family was executed by Bolsheviks. Whether this was a lucky guess or insight born from political intuition, it elevated Rasputin's image from mere mystic to prophetic martyr in some circles. Historians still divided. Modern historians are split on Rasputin's true influence. Some argue he was a charlatan who manipulated the weak-willed empress and hastened the fall of the Romanovs. Others suggest he was a scapegoat, his influence exaggerated by noblemen, clergy, and politicians who resented a peasant holding power in court. Recent scholarship suggests that his impact, while real, was not as wide-ranging as legend claims, but the myth was more powerful than the truth. Pop culture icon. Rasputin's legacy didn't end with the Russian Empire. He has since been featured in novels, plays, and operas, movies and TV shows. Cartoons and even pop songs, like Boney M's 1978 disco hit, Rasputin. He is often portrayed as a sorcerer, villain, or undead mystic, showing how his mystique has evolved beyond history into folklore and fiction. Final legacy. Whether seen as a holy man or a fraud, a healer or a manipulator, a patriot or a traitor, Rasputin stands as a symbol of an empire in collapse, where faith, fear, and politics intertwine to create one of the strangest chapters in Russian history. His life and death remind us that in times of chaos, people often turn to the unexplainable, and that even one man can change the fate of a dynasty.